Hello there. Welcome back and happy Skews Day. Today is August 17th, 2021. I'm Trey Crowder and that's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? Before you came on, I was got through the first two episodes of the new. There's like five Cocaine Cowboys documentaries, and Billy Corben makes great documentaries. He did this 30 for 30 stuff on Miami University and all that stuff. But I'm watching it, and I'm thinking about how American wars jumpstart drug epidemics domestically for no reason at all, and
Right.
there's a like two things struck me about it. One, these are all like the cocaine Florida epidemic was all like these are all like the two dudes this season's focusing on are some Cuban first generation Cuban immigrants, and these are smuggling networks created by the CIA for the Bay of Pigs and shit. And but also like every pill documentary is so sad, and every cocaine documentary is just a great time.
It's just a party.
Yeah.
Everybody's fucking got like floral shirts on and sunglasses and fucking holding guns and shit. Yeah, man, you're 100% right about that. Pills just way more sad than cocaine.
You know, like, this guy was caught with $2 billion worth of pills. Like, that's unless you're Purdue Pharma, that's just not the case.
Right. Yeah. Fucking. Much less of a party thing going on where pills are concerned. Mostly just poverty and depression.
I mean, John DeLorean ended up in federal prison for trafficking cocaine, but that's how he funded the DeLorean. We got a cool car with doors open like this out of cocaine.
Fucking time machine, yeah, man.
What we get out of pills,
dude? Look. Well, arguably me in my career, I can't stand up to the DeLorean because my mama was on pills. I'm saying so. I was this whole thing product of pills in a certain way. But yeah, dude,
listen, if we're keeping a car with doors that open this way,
dude. No, if we're keeping it real, cocaine gave us many gifts as a society. The entire '80s, like all that shit. All cocaine. So, you got to give it up to cocaine at some point.
Disco, Alf.
Yeah. Gremlins 2.
Yeah. All cocaine ideas.
All right. So, real quick, I want to remind y'all a couple of things. I'm on tour again. Go to wellreadcomedy.com for ticket information. I'm in Denver this weekend with the boys. That'll be a good time. Hope to see y'all there. Also, secondly, brand new thing. I have started a Patreon. So, if you're into that, I'm doing a couple of Patreon exclusives. One of them is I learn the news in real time and comment on it. It's mostly horrifying, but I attempt to make it funny. And the other one is I rate and review American politicians. I started with Marsha Blackburn, did Lindsey Graham this week. We'll get to all these motherfuckers eventually. So if you're into that or just want to support your boy, which I would very much appreciate, you can go to patreon.com/Trey Crowder. Thank you all very much. Okay, me and Mark are here. With us as always, producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. Tonight, the ongoing debacle that is the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. We came, we saw, we fucked everything up, and then we left. We will do our best to make sense of a horrific situation, and for that, we'll be joined by our guest tonight, Stan Meyer, who is a former clandestine intelligence officer with the Defense Intelligence Agency who served 4 tours in Afghanistan working counterterrorism operations. In other words, this guy's head to toe legit. That will be the bulk of our conversation tonight, I believe. But first, we will attempt to lighten the mood. And with that in mind, the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, Texas Governor Greg Abbott for, well, everything, really, but his inclusion in this segment this evening is particularly karmic in nature. Breaking news, everybody. Matt, play the clip.
We are continuing to follow breaking news from the state capitol, where in just the last half hour, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has announced he has tested positive for coronavirus.
New videos and photos from the governor's social media show just last night that he was at a public event greeting guests while not wearing a mask. KPRC2's Bill Spencer is joining us live from the newsroom now with the latest. Bill.
Yeah. How about that? So listen, it's not generally cool to applaud someone contracting an infectious disease, but when that person has spent their recent career ensuring that the maximum amount of his constituents possible contracts said disease, I feel like it's noteworthy.
Yeah, and the double infuriating part of this is like he gets daily testing because he's the governor, which I guess is appropriate if you're going to be seeing that many people. But also, they already put him on monoclonal antibodies or whatever. He's getting like free Cadillac treatments, taxpayer expense that no one else can even get to. You're on a ventilator as a precaution. Yeah,
right.
So,
and he's also fully vaccinated. So I mean, like, you know, presumably and statistically, he will be fine, which is what you want for somebody who's vaccinated because the vaccine fucking works. But yeah, just after all his bullshit, it's just, you know, there's a little bit of Schadenfreude involved with him contracting it. I think maybe DeSantis will be next.
let's talk. Like, just got a news alert. He's just like is announced penalties for school districts that have mask mandates. And by the way, they started drive-through Regeneron treatment facilities. So if you don't want to get the free thing that definitely keeps you from getting it for the most part, you can get the very expensive treatment to assuage the symptoms. The fact that one of his campaign daughters has a big stake in Regeneron is just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Dude, he is such a fucking bag of shit. Actively working against the preventative measures while pushing the reactive measures that he has a large financial stake in is just like top shelf fucking lizard person bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, he's such a fucking scumbag.
Yeah, more and more I'm reminded of that quote from season 2 of The Wire. Frank Sabaka says, "We used to make things in this country, build things. Now it's just one man sticking his hand in another man's pocket." It's like it pretty much explains everything. It's just a Ponzi scheme being run by the governor.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Her first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is fucking birds. Dumbass goddamn birds for not having, not wearing flame retardant feathers. This is Louis Gohmert. Is it Gohmert or Gomer? I can never remember. Gohmert.
It's Gohmert. It's
right,
Gohmert.
yeah, because it's like, right, he's American, so it's Gohmert, you know. This ain't no French bullshit.
Yeah, I know frou Parisians up in here.
All right, anyway, listen to what Louis Gohmert had to say talking about the Green New Deal.
But some of the crazy things in it. Let's plant flowers on the side of the road. Let's study impact collisions between animals and humans on the road. What about the windmills? The windmills kill so many birds, and yet they're taking us toward the Green New Deal.
Yeah, well, and another part of that Green Deal is the huge solar farm that they have out on the border of California and Nevada, thousands of acres of concave mirrors that magnify the sun toward 3 towers, heat up the liquid in there and turn turbines. But they weren't anticipating that there would be hundreds and thousands of what they would call flamers, because when the birds fly through, if they survive the windmills, then they hit that magnified sun, explode in flame, and down they go, bird guts all over the mirrors. So that takes some cleaning up. This is the green stuff that's just out of control and is going to bring the nation down.
Think of the birds, Mark. Think of the bird children. Who will think of the bird children? Louis Gohmert, that's who.
I'm just thinking ahead to like once climate change is undeniable or should be undeniable, like we're still going to hear all this disinformation because they'll be like, oh, that forest fire wasn't because of global warming. It's because a solar panel caused a bird to explode and it flew to California and set the redwoods on fire or whatever. I mean, we're just like, we trapped, like somebody the other day is like, this is what's going to happen is like, it'll be hot outside, but instead of being global warming is real, it's going to be like China hacked our thermostats. You know,
right. It also, so like, first of all, they don't give a fuck about birds. They love to shoot birds. The most popular, show in the history of their side of the fence was all about a bird shooting family. You know what I mean? Like the emperors of shooting birds. They don't give a fuck about birds. But secondly, like, also, we're talking about ultimately the fate of mankind. You know what I mean? And I think like millions of birds fly into the side of buildings every year and die. And listen, I'm not for birds dying unnecessarily, but I'm just saying no one is trying to cancel buildings. You know, we got to have buildings. And I feel the same way about solar panels. Like, yeah, I'm sure that he didn't just make that up. I'm sure that is like a thing that does happen, but it's in no way an invalidation of renewable energy sources going forward.
First of all, birds don't hit for almost anybody. They wake you up in the morning. That's no fun. Secondly, a couple weeks ago, we played a clip of Trump saying the Green New Deal was going to make you get rid of windows. And he was mad about that. But windows kill more birds than solar panels by a large margin, I bet.
Right.
So, yeah. Pick a lane. Are you pro-bird or anti-bird? I can't figure it out. The public party platform has to come down on the side of where they stand on birds.
Them, in an effort to prop up fucking oil and coal and stuff, them going like full bore pro-bird would be appropriately hilarious, I think. Like them picking up the pet calls of we're trying to save birds' lives while burning the planet down.
The funniest outcome would be some Republican congressman turning hugely pro windmill because they kill birds, like after a seagull steals his sandwich.
Yeah, I mean, that would make a lot more sense, you know, if they became pro windmill because they kill birds. Like, we're trying to kill as many birds as possible, and windmills are doing their part.
It's like they have to be personally impacted. You gotta
absolutely.
Seagulls, please steal Lee Gohmert's sandwich. They ought to be personally impacted. Like I was listening to a podcast like about how much, like, for example, this is off topic a little bit. The Supreme Court Stephen Breyer sucks real hard on criminal justice issues, and I'm trying to figure out why he hates crime and criminals so much and thinks he shouldn't have rights. But then someone discovered that he's been mugged like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
He's like, we have no more Fourth Amendment because Stephen Breyer is a really punchable, muggable face.
All right. Our next honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is Americans for just assuming that we have a right to be alive. Here's Marjorie Taylor Greene doing what she does. Play it, Matt.
So while the news tries to tell us the hospitals are slam-packed with COVID, that's just not the case. Everyone needs to get back down to common sense and remember that, you know, we're human. We can't live forever. We are going to catch all kinds of diseases and illnesses and other viruses, and we get hurt sometimes. So I'm all for let's be rational with this. Let's be careful. Let's be cautious, and let's not turn into an authoritarian regime that forces shots in arms of people that don't want it.
We're all going to die. We're all going to die. Suck it up. First of all, just how stupid we've gotten about this shit. She's like, only 30% of ICU patients are COVID. Like, we have an extra 30% of ICU beds laying around in America.
Right. I know. That's the context of the clip you just saw. Is she's talking about the overcrowding of hospitals and ICU beds and stuff. And she's like, listen, it's not just COVID. It's car accidents. It's cancer patients, whatever. It's like, yep, everyone knows. That is the point. The point is we need this space in these hospitals for those people, the general like things that happen to human beings, and they are being overcrowded and taken up because of all these unnecessary COVID patients. Like that, everyone, well, no, they don't. Everyone doesn't know that clearly, but I'm saying like that's just assumed. Again, that's the whole point of the thing. But she's trying to make it this like gotcha moment where she's like, you know, people get hit by buses too. And it's like, yeah, no shit, and they need somewhere to go.
Yeah. And like, if I had my druthers, the Green New Deal stuff would be a lot stronger, and we'd mandate that cars have to get smaller and have better sight lines and be less heavy, so for better fuel mileage, but also so less pedestrians will get hit. We could do that too, but like, you don't want to do that, so let's all go to the hospital. Let's all be permanently injured and go to the hospital in every possible way all the time. Let's all shoot each other, stab each other, hit each other with cars, and cough at each other, and that's what freedom is. And, yeah. It's just like I can't wrap my head around like you want cheap healthcare, but you just can't have an extra 30% of people going to the hospital, and you don't have the capacity for it. And we can't draft 1 million people to be doctors and have them graduate medical school by Thursday. So I don't know what the fuck you want to happen. I'm at my wit's end with these people. Yeah.
But she's been.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to cue that next clip because Congress is on a break and she's fucking using her time wisely, baby. Check out this clip. She's fully on one here.
$3.5 trillion budget is an Antifa jobs program.
I'm going full-time Antifa. Got my resume lined up.
What is that supposed to mean? Just that it's like it's for a bunch of fucking liberal shit, which means Antifa is going to be benefiting from it or something? Is that what she's saying?
I think it's that everyone to the left of Mitt Romney is definitionally an Antifa, and the people who would work in wind and solar are not doing it for the money because they have technical expertise. It's because they want to overthrow America. So if you want to get a job, a high pay, like it pays like 3 times what like working on an oil rig works. If you want to work on a solar farm, therefore you hate America. So that's pretty much what we're going for.
All right. So producer Matt, listen, let's in an effort to get to the primary topic, I just want to do one more honorable mention. It's House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy, or maybe I guess his fans, so much that he has fans, for just being who they are. Look at this sweet new merch that Kevin McCarthy has put out for true patriots on his website. It's a fucking, if you're only listening, it's a bright red t-shirt that says in white letters, moron, in very large font on the front of it. And then in markedly smaller font, it explains that moron is a term coined by Nancy Pelosi referring to freedom-loving Americans who oppose mask mandates. So if you're walking down the street and just pass, any given person, all they're going to see is that you have labeled yourself a moron, which I find convenient. I hope these shirts are a big hit. I hope they really go for it. I hope he, I hope he sees the result he's looking for. But on his website, it says that they should buy this moron shirt if they consider themselves to be a, quote, top patriot. They got top patriots working on this, Mark. Top patriots who are morons. It's just so, it's one of those things that seems fake. It's like self-parody, how do you make that funnier than it just already is in and of itself?
You ever seen those parody of a parody I'm with stupid shirts with the arrow pointing straight up at your own head? That's sort of like what's going on there. But it's like, so the context of this is like, the Senate doesn't have a mask mandate and the House does. The reason is all the senators are vaccinated and the House has like 170 people who aren't. But they always be like, how come they have freedom on the Senate side, but we're being oppressed over here in the House? You're a U.S. Congressman, you're not being fucking oppressed. You get paid almost $200,000 a year plus a ton of perks to act like an asshole. It's also, they trying to, we talk all the time how these people, they try to do Trump shit, but they don't have the juice for it. But they're trying to recapture the magic of deplorables. Right. But deplorable is not, that you're kind of being called like an edgelord or a little bit naughty,
like there's like a badass element to the word deplorable. Like for those people, it's like, it's like, I'm a maverick, I'm fucking, I'm a rebel, I'm deplorable. But moron is just moron. There's no badass element to calling yourself a fucking moron.
Nope, none at all. Kevin McCarthy is telling his supporters exactly what he thinks of them, and they're going to buy the t-shirt.
All right. Well, so speaking of moronic, let's get into it, Mark. The Afghanistan quagmire, the conclusion, will it ultimately be the conclusion? Who knows? But how it's unfolding right now. Why don't you get us into this, please?
Yeah, so Trump negotiated a ceasefire in exchange for us leaving Afghanistan with the Taliban a while back, and the deadline is coming up. And so Biden
and he did that without the Afghan government wasn't part of those negotiations. It was just with the Taliban.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone understood that Taliban was going to be the Afghan government eventually. So, we pulled out, and the Taliban walked into Kabul and took a city of 6 million people without firing a shot, basically. And what you want to see what the vibe is like in Kabul right now? We got a couple different videos, but here's the CNN's report from yesterday about what's happening right now.
As soon as we leave our compound, it's clear who is now in charge. Taliban fighters have flooded the capital. Smiling and victorious, they took this city of 6 million people in a matter of hours, barely firing a shot.
This is a sight I honestly thought I would never see. Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy compound.
Some carry American weapons. They tell us they're here to maintain law and order. Everything is under control. Everything will be fine, the commander says. Nobody should worry.
What's your message to America right now?
America already spent enough time in Afghanistan. They need to leave, he tells us. They already lost lots of lives and lots of money. People come up to them to pose for photographs.
They're just chanting death to America, but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, just your friendly neighborhood jihadist, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're going to get into it a little bit more, but the Taliban isn't Al-Qaeda, and we keep playing this game where we conflate the two of them, and the Taliban sucks. I mean, this is not, you got to handle the Taliban, but I'm seeing people being like there was a press conference. The Taliban had a press conference where Afghan journalists were asking pretty aggressive questions, and they weren't killing people. And they had actually a really funny exchange where somebody asked them, "Are we going to have freedom of speech in Afghanistan?" And the guy said, "How can you ask us about freedom of speech when America doesn't even have it? Because Facebook is censoring conservatives." I was like, "Oh shit, that fucking talking point is all the way to Afghanistan." And then of course Don Jr. thought that was hilarious because he's a moron. But I was thinking about this morning when I was like flipping through HBO Max to find something to watch while I did my cardio, and there's like a bunch of new Home Alone movies on there that I didn't know existed, like Home Alone 4, and Home Alone, one called Holiday Heist, I think. And I was sitting,
is it a different kid every time or what?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And so I was then thinking, I had no idea they were out there still doing that, but I guess somebody's making a buck off of it. And I guess that's been how most Americans think about the Afghan war for like the last 15 years.
Right.
It's just like none of this. I don't know, man. It's all bad. It's all fucking wasteful. It's like, go ahead.
Well, that's kind of that's sort of the only takeaway that I think there is to this is just that it's all fucking tragic and awful. Like there's a lot of finger pointing, throwing blame and stuff like that. The blame falls on fucking America as a, country and a government and just an entity at large. Like this whole thing is, I think that initially going into Afghanistan after 9/11 was, I think justified at the time, but everything that transpired after that, the way it all played out, like we never should have been there for 20 goddamn years. But also you can't just say fuck it and after having already done that thing you never should have done. You then have an obligation to handle it a little better than this has been handled, I think. And it's a deal that Trump made that Biden, I guess he felt like his hands were tied. So what's he going to do? He's got to follow through on it. But it happened right now. And right now, Joe Biden is the president. So like, he has to bear some of the responsibility. But anyway, we'll keep talking about it. But what do you think? Go ahead.
I mean, the root cause, like, people are arguing about whose fault, what president's fault this is, and all that shit. And it's like it's so many people's fault that I don't know if you can assign sort of blame.
George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, held through the whole entire Obama administration. This shit was going on. Countless diplomats and different cabinet members and shit over the years. Like you said, it's a ton of people's fault.
Yeah, people are like, why did like the Afghan police and army surrender so quickly or whatever? It's like there was like something that I found astounding is that the Afghan police hadn't been paid in like almost 2 months.
Right.
So the Taliban offered them all $150 just to go home. So they did. It's like, how does the Taliban have better supply chain logistics for dispersing money than the U.S. government? And
right.
It's just so much graft and corruption that it was never going to work. And we built that into the system. Like, the thing is, like, we don't talk a lot about foreign policy on the show. And that's for, a reason. It's like, I don't understand enough about Afghan politics and which warlords are allied with who, and with the different tribal factions and rivalries that go back 1,000 years, and their different religious beliefs and languages. I don't understand that shit. The problem is neither does George W. Bush or Condoleezza Rice or Donald Rumsfeld. And that's the core fucking problem with all this. Is we all went absolutely insane after 9/11. We all did. We wanted to fucking lash out and punish somebody for feeling unsafe, and we think we're entitled to feel safe as Americans on our own shores. And somebody had to pay, and we've been doing it for 20 years, and no one can even explain what the fuck we're even trying to accomplish. There was a report, the special inspector general for Afghan reconstruction. It came out in 2015, and people are posting clips from it today. Screen grabs, and it's just an utter failure. Like in 2015, this guy was like, we don't know what we're doing still. It's 14 years in. We don't know. Like, we're not accomplishing jack shit. There was something I found astounding, like the diplomatic staff, the State Department's like, I think 7,900 people, which is about the same number of people the Department of Defense has in its various bands. Like, there are like there are more color guard tuba players in the military than there are diplomats in American. It's like, what the fuck are we doing, man? Like, nobody knows. Yeah.
It's like they said, because I worked I worked for the DOE in Oak Ridge. None of this shit, but still, I've been working for the federal government a little bit. And being in show business, there's a very famous quote in show business from William Goldman, who says, he said, the number one thing you need to know is nobody knows anything. Like, no one knows what the fuck they're doing. They're all just like throwing darts at the wall or whatever. And in my experience working for the government, there was a lot of that going on too. Like, it's just fucking, the blind leading the blind in a lot of ways. Political appointees and shit, people get put in positions they don't know what the fuck they're doing. There are people who do, but they're outweighed by just this, massive machine that generally doesn't, it seems like. So we've got a lot more to talk about on this topic, obviously, and I want to go ahead and get our guest out here to join us for it. Our guest tonight, as I mentioned up top, is a former clandestine intelligence officer with the Defense Intelligence Agency who served 4 tours in Afghanistan working counterterrorism operations. He also served in Iraq as a Marine infantryman and is now a writer, actor, and playwright living in California's high desert. Everybody, please welcome Stan Mayer. Hey, Stan.
How's it going, gents?
Hey, good to see you, man. Yeah, yeah, Stan, he's also done the Well-Read podcast. I've known Stan for a little bit, and he's a good dude, so it's good to have you here. Stan, if you could just sort of give us kind of an overview of your general experience, just kind of your background, so people know where you're coming from.
Sure. I feel like I just came out of the closet a little bit. I don't know that I've ever publicly told anyone that I was a clandestine intelligence officer, but here I am.
Oh, is Trey going to Gitmo?
It's fine there. You love it. They have good jerk chicken. Anyway. I got recruited in the agency out of the hospital. I got wounded in Iraq as a Marine, and I was in the Naval Hospital in D.C., and I ended up rubbing elbows with some intel guys. I thought they were hiring me to be a security guard. But anyway, I went through the training pipeline, and I ended up spending the better part of 7 years sitting in shipping containers with Taliban commanders, low-level guys, some higher-level guys, talking to them, trying to get them to dime out their friends. And that's basically how we would establish relationships and figure out the priority of who we're going to kill first and who we're going to capture and who gets to stay off that naughty or nice list, And that was essentially my job, and write reports and send them back to DC, and maybe they end up in the presidential daily brief, and then he wouldn't read it or misinterpret it or whatever, and we continue to wag that dog. essentially I stopped doing that when I realized that the war wasn't meant to be won, which took me 16 years, that it just kind of was meant to go on forever. And
Right.
maybe that's my foil hat speaking, but I kind of saw that and I was like, I feel like I killed that guy, like, or was part of the operation to kill some guy, or I hunted some dude for like 4 months and some other guys went out to kill him. And I'm like, that's like the 100th time we killed that same guy. And somebody looked at me across the table just eating a bowl of Lucky Charms. Well, I just watched the dude engage with his rifle in combat, and he just kind of smiled at me. He said, yeah, dude, same guy. It's always the same guy. And I was like, holy shit, we're here for some other reason that I thought. And then all of a sudden my little firecrackers and American flag, you know, underwear went out the window, and I just want to come home.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's one thing I've wondered about with you guys, everybody that served over there. Like, is there I mean, it seems like you kind of came to a conclusion like this before now, and that's part of why you left. But is there this feeling of like all that shit was for nothing? You know, like massive sacrifices were made by so many Americans, and seeing this unfold, is it like, goddamn, there was no point to any of that? Or do you kind of just understand that even, you know, at a certain point?
Well, brother, this is my my second back-to-back, you know, L for wars. I got to tell you, I got to digest, and I'm still digesting. It'll be a life process. You know, I was in a unit that was in a lot of combat in the Marines. I had 48 KIA in one tour this summer of 2005 when I was 23 years old. That's a lot of friends dead in one summer. I mean, not by NOM standards, but by 21st century global war on terrorism, that's a lot. And then Iraq just kind of shut down. Everyone went home and said, like, no, we're good. So what the fuck? And then we're in Afghanistan, and this shit's been going on for 20 years, brother. I mean, like, I'm like rage typing like Kermit the Frog the past like 2 days, like manifestos that I'm like threatening to send to the Washington Post, but they're all like anger at everyone else, at like Americans for shutting their brains off, for nobody gave a shit. And then all of a sudden this happened, right? And I'm trying to exercise a little empathy right now, because I didn't come home becoming, you know, like an activist, which I surely could have. I'm exhausted, man. And I'm not saying it's, you know, like I promised a lot of guys, you know, Taliban guys, local guys who are helping me, that I could, you know, if they worked with me, that they might have a better chance of staying alive. And they all kind of hedged their bets. You know, some of them had two daddies, and there was me, and then there was the Taliban, right? And you kind of have to do both. Stay off the list for, you know, both sides. Anyway, the point is that we saw this coming a million miles away. We knew that there was no way that we're going to protect those guys. All those promises were for naught. It was all just kind of to continue moving the ball forward until maybe somebody woke the fuck up in the United States and said, hey, are we still at war? But everyone forgot. I don't feel like that's hyperbolic. I mean, like, we all kind of been insulated from this Afghanistan thing that's been going on for 2 decades. And I was never there as a Marine. Those guys in Lashkar Gah and Sangin, holy shit, right? And it continued. And we didn't even see the stuff in the newspaper. We're not talking about the news, nothing.
So you were talking about how, you know, we saw it coming a million miles away. We're like, it's just, you know, it's the same guy over and over again. It's the, you know, the forever war, basically. So, like, was there ever by the time it got to that point, was there ever a, you know, acceptable way out? Was it just like, it's going to go on forever, or something like this was going to happen eventually? You know, in your opinion, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, when we stepped foot out there, right? So we had a good show of force, a good team effort coming out the gate. You know, Operation Anaconda, we're up in the Tora Bora Mountains smoking out, you know, Taliban hooking up with the Northern Alliance, finding all the old Muj fighters from back in the day. And, you know, we got SF dudes on horseback riding through, and then we stayed, right? and it was kind of a little operation, and then Iraq happened, and that was a big operation. Afghanistan kind of happened in the background. We weren't planning on getting out of there. We waited until we could retrieve our assets from Iraq and put them in Afghanistan. And then what happened? 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, Afghanistan blows up. All of the ass is there, all the equipment, everything. All these bases start popping up. And I mean, we never intended to pull out, but some politician was going to end up, you know, rolling snake eyes and you know, like
right,
the musical chairs, and he was going to end up without a chair. And this one's Biden, right? And like, I'm not really impressed with how he did it, because we could have really put some shit in place to take care of some of these people that we promised that they'd be taken care of, or even, you know, setting up women to be mayors of villages or provinces. Even I don't think anyone's a mayor of a province that's a female in Afghanistan, but like, and to take the happy snaps with them, the politicians to stand there next to them and say, look what we've done. Here's a woman in Afghanistan. She's in charge. And then to not send her a plane ticket before we pull out in the night without telling anybody, you know. And these Afghan fighters, man, look, the ANA, the Afghan National Army, the Afghan National Police, right? We're not talking about a well-oiled machine of war fighters, but we are talking about some guys who made a choice. It was not safe for them. You don't put on an ANA uniform and expect to live every day, right? Like, everyone's trying to kill you. And maybe they're putting that uniform on because they don't want me trying to kill them, right? So they're hedging their bets too, but those guys died. As many of them died yearly as Americans died in the entire 20-year duration, right? And, you know, you can fact check me on that, but it's ballpark is what we're looking at. And they didn't always get paid on time.
Right.
The gasoline that we'd give them to put in their trucks, their little Danger Rangers with their technical, you know, turrets on the back and whatnot, they're driving around. They have low armor, low anything. They're kind of trained, you know. Our SF guys have taught a lot of dudes how to do some cool stuff, but they don't really have it. That gasoline kind of disappears as soon as it goes in the tank. You know, we'd have lots of these Rangers that we'd have the ANA guys patrolling in, no fucking wheels on them, because the second we put them out there brand new, they would just get kind of scrapped, you know, and it all kind of go away. And we didn't have the point. I don't know where my point is anymore. I'm just ranting.
No, it's all right. You're doing fucking great, buddy. Those guys you're talking about, they've become part of the narrative too, I think, of people talking about, asking like, what were they doing? Why didn't they do anything about this? You know, like, they're fucking running. They're not doing anything. We trained them all this time for nothing. But like, that's bullshit, right? Like you said, like, it's a massive choice to have even made to be there in the first place. And it's not like they just, like, putting it out there as though they just don't give a fuck or they turn tail at the earliest, you know, opportunity or whatever is pretty fucked up, right? Like, that's not the deal.
That was my point. They're just, they're screwed. The Afghans were fucked when we decided that Afghanistan was the enemy, or that the bad guys were in Afghanistan.
Right.
You know, 5 minutes after the plane hit the tower, the first tower, right? And it's bin Laden, right? We're not talking about going after the guys in the nice, clean, you know, Shalwar commies or whatever they call them in Saudi Arabia. But you know, like, we're not over there knocking on their door. We're in, man, I went into villages in Kandahar. I would kind of roll up, man, and it was cool. Like, me is just a 6'4" white dude and coming out of a striker vehicle, because I could go tap an army unit and say, you guys go in this village? They say no, but we will. And I just jump in, they drive me there, and I could hop out. I'd say, who's in charge here? And some key, you know, local elder would jump out, and he would invite me to like a chicken fight or cockfight or something like that, and like feed me, and we'd talk. And they would think that I was Russian because they had no fucking idea about 9/11, right?
Holy shit.
That happened. All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're screwed. We weren't going over there to get refugees out someday, but we were going to use every single last one of these people, these human beings, Dude, I mean, some of these kids that I used to sit with that would help facilitate what I needed them to do, bring me information about other guys, or they were young, you know, like, I mean, not minors, because we're not supposed to be talking to minors, but like in their 30s, right? And watching this and feeling pretty betrayed. And I don't blame them.
Dude, they'd have to, right? You'd have to feel betrayed after. I mean, they were just, like you said earlier, talking about the things that could have been done better. Just like they were just fucking left hanging out to dry, man. Like, I mean, kind of literally, there were people hanging off of airplanes trying to get out of the country, you know, and people died doing that. I mean, it's just a fucking nightmare. And talking about the refugees, I wanted to. Producer Matt, if you have that clip of Laura Ingraham, if you could put that up whenever you've got it. She said,
and is it really our responsibility to welcome thousands of potentially unvetted refugees from Afghanistan? All day we've heard phrases like, we promised them. Well, who did? Did you? Well,
what's your
yeah, I mean, like, it's like that's the fucking
right.
A stat that I saw yesterday that blew my mind is like the median age of an Afghani is 18 years old. So the majority of Afghans weren't even born on fucking 9/11, and it's just wild to me the complete lack of sympathy that people in power in America seem to have for, you know.
Right. Yeah. As somebody who's just, you know, sat on my ass and watched it all unfold, I see that clip and my response is also, yeah, yes, we 100% do have an obligation to do that, it seems to me. But I'm wondering, Stan, what you think about that mentality.
We're not really in a nation of accountability anymore. We were kind of taught slowly over time that we could say it wasn't me. And in the last 4 years, it was really hammered in there. Like, it wasn't me is good enough. And then you just walk away and watch it, you know, let it burn you. You have to look at it. Sure. You know, stand out there promising the world to anybody that's willing to dime out their buddies so that I can send some SEALs after, you know, Mohammed or whatever. They're not going to honor those promises. Right. And these are things that are just kind of part of the game. The deal is that these people, like I keep saying, were hedging their bets, and they were kind of hoping that maybe this time, you know, maybe these people were young enough. Maybe these like 20-year-old local grape farmers were saying, like, maybe if I work with Stan, you know, maybe I'm not old enough to remember what happened when the Russians were here, or, you know, the Northern Alliance or anything like that, or what happened before then. But like, these guys might be my ticket, you know?
Yeah.
And they're not, you know, they get it now. They get it now. But my guys is like, what happens with our next bullshit war, right? And it's going to be bullshit, whatever it is. And they send some new kid that is doing what I used to do, is trying to find who the bad guys are and where they are and when they're there, so that our special operators can go out and find them and kill them. And nobody wants to talk to them because they remember what happened, right? It's the same thing when what's his nuts with the white hair came out and dumped all that WikiLeaks bullshit with all the files and the source data and everything. And now, how are you going to get a CIA case officer in a room with somebody that's going to talk to them and trust them that they're not going to sell them out, or that they can even protect their information, right? Who's going to talk to us? It's credibility, and we're running out of it, but we don't need it anymore because the diplomacy's not there. We're just on our knees sucking off defense industry. That's all we care about. That's all we're going to do. That's what's running it. We can't vote
because that's
too stupid to figure out anything. We can figure out we should put a mask on, right? Like, it's going to continue, and it's going to be them running the shit, right?
Right, but like you were saying,
I saw that infuriated me. It was like something like, out of the $2 trillion we spent in Afghanistan, something like 80 to 90% of it, and it went in American contractors' pockets. So it ended up back in the American economy, but just not spent on anything useful. It always went to buy guys from Raytheon a pool or whatever, houseboat, and it's fucking maddening, man. Sorry.
Yeah,
I can't imagine how you feel about it. It must be like. Grief is the only thing I can imagine it must be, you know?
Well, brother, I have a kind of Wonder Years kind of vibe coming out of Afghanistan. I grew up there, right? Not like 10-year-old BMX bike growing up, but late 20s, early 30s. I went through that transition of like what was, a young man into an actual adult male, and saw a lot of war, and I spent a lot of, spent my holidays out there year after year, and I won't say I don't miss it, but I won't say that I belong there either. I can't expect that there's going to be some great evil someday that's going to be wearing a uniform that we're going to be, charging up hills after. And our generation just got to fight the war that was meant to cost money. There's a book. I mean, this is not a new concept. There's a book by Smedley Butler, who was a Marine that had 2 Medals of Honor, and it's called War is a Racket. Very short, take you, like one good shit to read. And it's as relevant now as it's ever been. There's not one piece of dated information in that. It is absolutely nuts. And it was just, that's a general in the Marines that figured it out when somebody sent him, like, I don't know, back in the day, what would be now like $1 billion worth of mosquito nets, that there were no mosquitoes for it. He was like, what the fuck is this? And realized what the fuck it was.
Yeah, well,
if you don't know who Smedley Butler is, my favorite American characters. That dude's has a fascinating. He was the center of a bunch of American controversies and foreign adventurism, and he ended up being. I'm not sure you have to describe his eventual ideology, but you get the bonus army and the business plot and all that shit. Go scan his Wikipedia page if you want to see like 60 years of American weirdness, all lived by one guy. Yeah,
but you look at how all this is unfolding, and you were saying, but they're not going to trust us anymore, and like what we've left in place over there, and it's not hard to see, another eventual war, in the future coming up over there, in which case it will be the same people who get rich as fuck off of it, and the same people who die over there, and it'll just be the same fucking bullshit over and over again. And it's just, I don't know. It's just disheartening, to say the least.
It'll be some guy with weird facial hair. They always have weird facial hair, and they'll tell us he's just as bad as Hitler. And that's always the case. Well,
I mean, look, you guys know where the opium comes from, and you know what they make with opium, and it's not just the guy in the alley. There's a lot to be invested in Afghanistan, and the Taliban might look like they're running shit now, but like we're not talking about, again, a well-oiled machine. Now they can do a lot more with a lot less, right? They can basically spank the shit out of America with a sandal, but they're not in charge of the opium. They're not going to be for long. Wait until they find out their new daddy is China, and then where are we going to be? Back there begging Afghans to, tell us where the bad guys are. This shit's not ending. We're pulling out now, and it's ugly. I'm mad. I'm happy that Biden said, like, it's enough. We're done. I'll be the one that pulls the plug on it, because like somebody's got to end the fucking thing. But God damn, man, like a plan, any kind of plan whatsoever would have been real cool. Like just anything, anything, like a leaflet drop, get your shit and get the fuck out. Anything, but nothing, not a damn thing. And we still got soldiers out there they got their asses hanging out. They're, laying down suppressive fire on the runways, trying to get people from clinging off the side. I mean, that's the most terrible thing that I've seen in recent history. Since, I guess, George Floyd, right? Like, we're just can't top one thing after another. There's a guy stuck to the landing gear. Not even the guy's falling off the plane. The dude just flapping on the side of a C-17, flying probably at 20,000 feet, frozen, stuck, just like a boom sock. I wonder what that looked like when they landed.
Just fucking desperation, man. So is that kind of like, I feel like you sort of alluded to it. You're watching all this shit, and me and Mark were talking about how, like, I don't even know what the takeaway is, other than this is all just fucking terrible. Everything about this fucking sucks. You know, all the fucking blaming and finger pointing is ultimately moot because it's just a shit show top to bottom. But like, if you could kind of, I know this is like kind of a bullshit question, but sort of summarize how you've been feeling when you're looking at this recently. Is it that, yeah, like you said, I'm glad Biden, somebody had to end it. It had to end at some point, but there were a lot of things that could have been done a lot better. Is that basically how you feel about it overall?
I mean, everything could have been done a lot better. I mean, like any single aspect of it could have been done better. The only thing that was done correctly was the ending of it, right? The pullout, right? But I mean, damn, like a little bedside manner. And like, look, I'm not talking just for the sake of, you know, humanitarian effort. I'm saying, like, we have a lot of assets down there on the ground and people, right? And some of these Afghans are important to America, you know. I met one of these guys in the United States once, and I remember him telling me the last time I saw him how difficult it was going to be for him to be an American. I say, hey man, a lot of guys that look a lot like me are going to always tell you you're a piece of shit because you're from over there. But I will tell you that you are the American dream, right? I don't know anything about that. They immigrated over here and got to work, and they did what some of our grandparents did, the hard thing, leaving home. And like, there's an American spirit there. We just fucking shit all over it. We just, you know, too sad, too bad, buddy. Welcome to the Taliban run Afghanistan. These people were important to the United States. Our equipment was important to the United States. It really chaps my ass thinking about whose hands that gear ends up in.
Yeah. What about that? What about that part specifically, man? Like what, like, because there's been a lot of talk about all the shit that was just basically abandoned that now the Taliban has control of, apparently. Like, how does that happen in the first place?
It was hasty, man. There was no time. I mean, it was funny to say that. They had 20 years to get their shit together.
Right.
We could have just got a parking lot somewhere, Bagram. I mean, anything we declared was our land, we could have taken. And they could have just parked them all on any of the bases that we're annexing or closing down or something like that, which is all ridiculously wasteful. These bases we'd build, and they'd be like, oh, never mind. We don't like this area anymore. All the cool bad guys and the good targets are in Jalalabad. Shut it down. And we would leave, right? Spend $30 million on some shipping containers and some wire and some satellites, and now we're moving someplace. We could have moved all this shit somewhere and hit it with some thermite, some white phosphorus or whatever, just melted the shit out of it and went home. But now we have Taliban command. Look, some of these Taliban guys are guys that used to work for us, right? Some of them were ANA. Some of them were in these little, you know, special operations groups that our Green Berets were training for years out there that are not unfamiliar with, you know, and then said, fuck this, I'm going over. And now they're working for the Taliban, and now they have a Scan Eagle, right? And now you're a 20-year-old Lance Corporal in the Marines that's humping through some bullshit shale-covered mountain, you know, with a tripod on your back. And the bad guy could see exactly where you're shitting, right? And now you can't figure out why. They always know exactly where to blow you up. At least before, we had the element of, you know, like happenstance that they might miss us, you know, but it's all out there. Armored vehicles, all that shit just makes and it's because they don't give a fuck about soldiers, man. They don't care.
Right.
We'll wave flags at them afterwards, right? We're all going to tell them good job and thank you for your service. And the politicians are going to, you know, cry when Lee Greenwood sings, you know, I'm proud to be American, whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. They don't care. If they cared, they would have made sure that didn't happen. It's like we almost want them to have the upper hand. It could justify maybe spending another $100 trillion or whatever in 10 years once China's got a good foothold over there. Yeah,
man. won't be surprising at all if that's exactly what happens. Mark, what do you got? You got anything?
Just the opioid thing made me think the poppies. The Taliban did, my understanding, two air quote good things was cracking down on opium trade and trying to crack down on child molesting. But I remember when I gave up on trying to figure out what the hell was happening over there, I saw this news story about 2 DEA agents getting killed in a remote province in Afghanistan. And I was like, what the fuck is a DEA doing it? Oh, they're trying to stop whatever the CIA is doing. Now I understand. It's just like, what are you going to do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Stan, this has been awesome. Always awesome talking to you. You're fucking, like I said, up top, head to toe legit. We appreciate you being here. I did want to ask, I don't know if you have anything, but I don't know if you even want people to follow you or anything like that. But if you do, you can now tell people how they can do that if you want to. Or you can tell them all to fuck off. That's fine. It's up to you.
No, I'm looking at these comments over here. I don't think anyone likes me. I'm kind of a downer. Look, I'm a writer, and I pontificate, and I put that on Instagram. I don't tweet. I don't give a shit. I'm working on a novel. If you want to see pieces of that coming through, it's in my Instagram. It's actual. That's it.
Right on.
They give us a bunch of shit in the comments too, Stan, so I wouldn't worry about it.
All the time, but there's plenty of people over here giving you love too. But yeah,
no
either way,
so I'm happy.
All right. Well, thank you so much, buddy. I'll see you for too long. We'll hang out, get a beer, whatever. And thanks for coming on. Oh, well, producer Matt wants you to say your Instagram again.
Okay. It's I'm putting it in this comment box. Send it to him. It's Stash Actual.
There you go.
Yeah. Trey, Matt, is all of you gentlemen, it's just a pleasure every time I get to talk to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stan.
Anytime you need me, I'm more than willing to make everyone sad.
Now all you're doing is just talking about what the fucking shit is. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, we'll see you for too long. Thanks, Stan. Appreciate it.
Right on, gents. Have a good one.
Right. Thanks, Stan.
See ya. Stan Mayer, everybody. Here we go. He's still sitting there. I'm trying to fucking Matt, producer Matt, get rid of Stan so he doesn't just have to sit there staring at us wondering what the fuck is going on, because I can't do it. Thank you.
I'm back.
Thank you, Stan. All right.
I'm just going to shut my computer off. All right. I love you guys. Take care.
Bye, Stan. Dude, so one thing, I was trying to figure out why they can't just the refugee process, but a bunch of horrible racism about foreigners and immigrants, has filtered into a political process. And there's how to get refugees in is really stringent and strident. And Trump not admitting any refugees until the clock was almost already running out fucked us, unless Congress is going to pass a new law or it's just all awful. And you'd think that the president could just reach down to the bureaucracy and be like, no, we're going to take 100,000 people out. You guys get on it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But it's wild.
Yeah, but that's what I'm we were talking earlier about just that report that came out about sort of the strategy, such that there was one over there, which there really wasn't on behalf of the federal government, and it's like I said, they don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? And they're all just they have these lofty goals or whatever, but they don't have a way to actually accomplish them or anything. People just say oh, it'd be good if we didn't have no more of this anymore. Somebody make that happen. You know what I mean? But they don't know how to actually make it happen. And it just went on like that for 20 fucking years.
They were promising to turn all the world's theocracies into democracies and to rid the world of terrorism. Now, think about how dumb you have to be to believe that promise and how naive. It's you might as well promise we can all have ponies. And it's so weird how small we think with our domestic priorities and how much we think we can just completely remake the world in our image. It's Hillary used that ponies thing about Medicare for all, right? But that's a much more easy thing to deliver than turning the entire Middle East into functioning parliamentary democracies or whatever. At gunpoint.
Yeah, right. No, yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like you just say shit. They just say shit. It's like it would be good if it was this way, but you can't just make that happen. But that's sort of a politician's whole deal, I guess.
I know we got to wrap up. We're talking about how crazy America went after 9/11, and I keep thinking about this buddy I used to work with, who was like pretty lib. He was in the Peace Corps, right? And then 9/11 happened, and he completely shifted his worldview, and he became basically a neocon, right? And my whole thing was like, if you never factored in there being evil in the world into your worldview, then you didn't actually have any beliefs to begin with. But like, we have these arguments, you'd be like, we need to turn these places into democracies because democracies don't go to war with each other, which is a rhetorical sleight of hand because Germany was a democracy until Hitler took power, then they went to war. So you're changing definitions of shit, right? And then also the reasons democracies don't go to war as often is because we're voting to send ourselves to war and our children to war and to spend our tax dollars on wars. And we get tired of it if we feel lied to. So when we pulled out of Iraq, he got real mad. Like, it's like, well, this is short-sighted. This is how this is going to end up backfiring. It's like, but the reason you want to turn those places into democracies is they won't go to war because for the exact reason you're seeing Americans want to get out of this war. So you can't be like, America must become fascist, so we follow through on wars to turn other places into democracies. It's also fucking crazy, and it ends up being this sick loop. And I don't know, man. Yeah. It's a really sad day. Sorry for depressing everybody.
No, well, again, it's just, what are you going to do? It just is what it is. There's no other way to talk about it. Something so fucked up other than acknowledging how fucked up it is. And on that uplifting note, we will leave you. I will take this very opportune moment to once again plug my tour. Go to wellreadcomedy.com. And also, if you want to see extra shit from me and want to support your boy, go to patreon.com/Trey Crowder. But you ain't got to, and I love you like chicken either way. Thank you all very much for joining us. And you got something
Go see Trey on the road. It'll be more fun than talking about Afghanistan.
Yes, we're going to put that on the website. That's the plug. It's more fun than talking about Afghanistan. That is our bar. Now, we try to have a good time. Come see us. Thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll be back next week on the Skews.